Okay, good morning everyone.
Morning. Morning.
Okay, now we from group 3. We present the result of our discussion. And I as moderator and then the last speaker.
My name is Don Enrique. I'm the first speaker.
My name is Maria Sandrayan Tinetiri. I'm the second speaker.
My name is Ignacia Malimau. I am the third speaker.
The presenter 1, time is yours.
Chapter 11, Semantic Memory. In psycholinguistics, semantic memory is the study of how people store and retrieve knowledge about the meanings of words, concepts, and facts, and the world in general. It's essentially our mental encyclopedia and containing factual and conceptual information. General knowledge. Semantic memory holds our encyclopedic store of facts and words meanings that aren't tied to specific episodes. It includes lexical entires, for example, knowing that apple refers to a fruit, and then word facts, for example, Mount Everest is the highest mountain on earth, and then category knowledge, for example, birds versus mammals, musical genres. Example, you can answer what is the boiling point of water, 100 degrees Celsius at sea level, without recalling when or where you learned it. And then conceptual understanding. Beyond level, semantic memory encodes the deeper concepts behind words and phrases, how features cluster to define a concept. Models like features list theories points that chair is represented by features such as has legs used for sitting, usually indoors. Example, if you have never seen a quokka, you can infer it's a type of marsupial found in Australia by combining your concept of marsupial, small mammal, and Australian fauna. And then organization and structure. Semantic knowledge isn't a flat list, it is organized in networks or hierarchies. In semantic network models, concepts are linked by label relationship. For example, canary is a bird. Canary? And then reading activation through these links helps retrieval. Example, when asked to name animals, activation might spread from dog to related concepts like wolf or cat that you access. Language processing. And then semantic memory is core to understanding and using language. During reading or listening, we map words into stored concepts in speaking or writing. We select concepts and retrieve their lexical forms. Example, if you want to describe someone's joy, you access the concepts happiness and choose words like elaborate, thrilled, or joyful depending on nuance. Then brain networks. Neuroimaging and patient studies implicate distributed network like anterior temporal lobes, ATL, so to act as a hub integrating modality specific information. And then inferior frontal gyrus is IRG involved in control, retrieval, and selection among conflicting meanings. And then posterior middle temporal gyrus is PMTG links words from to meaning. Example, dementia to the ATL as in semantic dementia leads to progressive loss of words and object knowledge despite in fact episodic memory. And then semantic priming, presentation of a semantically related prime speech recognition of a subsequent target. This reflects spreading activation in the semantic networks. Example, in a lexical decision task, you'll verify doctor as a word faster, it follows nurse than it follows breath. And then semantic satiation. Repeatedly saying or hearing a word can temporarily make it feel meaningless or change your perception of its sounds. This may result from neural habituation in the circuits representing the word. For example, after repeating 20 times in a row, the word may sound like a string. This connective sequence of sounds rather than the concept of a living language. And the last one is cognitive abilities. Semantic memory underpins many higher order functions like reading comprehension, mapping facts into word knowledge, and then problem solving like applying factual knowledge to narrow situation, and then object perception. It's like recognizing and naming objects in environment. And the last one is face recognition, linking a familiar face to a person's identity and personal facts. Example, when you stand in your article about climate change, you draw on your semantic knowledge of the greenhouse effect, carbon dioxide, and weather patterns. Together, these facts show how semantics memory provides the scaffold for our conceptual words and enabling us to know to store fast, arise, or find, but also to weave them into meaningful structures that support everything from everyday conversation to complex research.
Okay, now move to the chapter section 12 about scientific parsing. In psycholinguistics, parsing refers to the mental process of analyzing and interpreting the grammatical structure of sentences as they are heard or read. It's a crucial part of language comprehension, where the brain assigns words to categorize and combines them according to scientific rules to understand the sentence meaning. Incremental processing. Parsing is online. We don't wait until the sentence ends to start building its structure. Instead, each incoming word is integrated into our current scientific sketch, slowly allowing rapid comprehension and early detection of anomalies. For example, in the sentence, while the man hunted, the deer ran into the woods. Upon hearing hunted, you tentatively attach it to the man as its verb. When the deer appears, you momentarily reinterpret the deer as the object of hunted, only to reanalyze again once you reach ran. And at which point you realize you need a new clause like garden pet effects, see below. And working memory. As words accumulate, the parser maintains partial structures, phrase fragments, unresolved dependencies, and possible attachments in working memory. Reader sentence complexity or length place higher dimensions on this memory buffer, affecting processing speed and error rates. For example, compare processing difficulty between the reporter, like that the senator, who the voters admire, attacked, resigned. The reporter attacked, the senator resigned. Sentence I loaded several nested clauses into working memory, like that attacked, who admire, making it harder to keep track of who does what, whereas sentence 2 leads to confusion because the parser never commits to a coherent structure. Modular models. Modular accounts, for example, like Fodor's language module, arch parsing is encapsulated, driven solely by scientific rules, impervious to semantics or context during early processing. Interactive accounts, by contrast, hold that lexical semantics, world knowledge, and even prosody can influence scientific decision from the outset. For example, given the spy saw the man with the binoculars, a modular parser initially addresses to a default rule For example, like attach with the binoculars to the noun phrase, the man, and only the latter considers alternate attachments. An interactive parser might use plausibility, like spies use binoculars to prefer attaching the phrase to the verb saw with binoculars immediately. And garden pet sentence. Garden pet sentence are grammatically correct but structured so that the most straightforward initial parse leads you astray, forcing a costly reanalysis when you hit a word that doesn't fit your current structure. They reveal the heuristics and limitations of our parsing routines. For example, the old man, the boots. In the initial parse, the old man as a noun phrase. On encountering the boots, you must realize man as a verb and all people man the boots, which is disparate and incurs a processing the life. Experimental studies. Psycholinguistics deploy tasks like self-paced reading, eye tracking, and event-related potentials to measure how quickly and accurately participants process sentence, where the pause or regress, and which brain response indicate detection of synthetic anomalies. Variables such as working memory load, ambiguity, and context are systematically manipulated. For example, eye tracking. Eye tracking measures fiction duration on words. Longer fixations on the boots in the garden pet example signal the moment of reanalysis. Minimal attachment strategy. Minimal attachment is a parsing heuristic. Attach its new phrase to the current structure in a way that yields the simples like fewest notice tree. Though if efficient, it can be mislead when more complex structures are actually correct, necessitating backtracking. For example, in John said that Bill left yesterday. Minimal attachment would first try to attach yesterday inside the ambiguous clause like Bill left yesterday because adding it there yields a simpler total structure. If the intended meaning is John said yesterday that Bill left, you must override minimal attachment and attach yesterday to the main clauses.
Next, chapter 13, prosody. In psycholinguistics, prosody, which encompasses intonation, rhythm, and other aspects of speech beyond individual phonemes, plays a crucial role in how we perceive and process language. It influences not only how we interpret sentences, but also how we understand emotional states and other contextual nuances in spoken language. The first, intonation and rhythm. Intonation is the pattern of pitch change across an utterance, rise, fall, counters, boundary tones. And rhythm is the timing and stress pattern of syllables and words, stress-timed versus syllable-timed languages. Together, they call listeners to praise structure, where clauses or topics begin and end, highlight focus and signal questions versus statements. For example, boundary marking. Let's eat, Grandma. Falling pitch after eat, marking a clause boundary. Let's eat, Grandma. No boundary cue reads the garden pet, eat, Grandma. Reading. Focus. I didn't say he stole the money. Pitch accent on didn't implies genial. I didn't say he stole the money. Pitch on the implies someone else might have. The second, ambiguity resolutions. When a sentence's syntax permits multiple parses, prosodic breaks and pitch patterns steer us towards the intended meaning before semantic context arrives. For example, sentence, she said John is leaving tomorrow. Attach tomorrow to is leaving. Prosody, she said John is leaving, slight pause, tomorrow. Meaning, John will leave tomorrow. Attach tomorrow to said. Prosody, she said pause, John is leaving tomorrow. The meaning is tomorrow she will say John is leaving. The third, emotional cues. Variation in loudness, amplitude, pitch range, speech rate, and voice quality. For example, breathing versus tense. Signal emotions such as anger, joy, sadness, or sarcasm. Listeners tune into these fine-grained prosodic features to infer a speaker's affective state. For example, anger, faster rate, higher amplitude, tense voice. I can't believe you did that. Sadness, slower rate, lower pitch, softer amplitude. I guess I'll just go now. Sarcasm, exaggerated pitch contours, stretched syllables. Oh, great, another meeting. The fourth, language acquisitions. From birth, infants are sensitive to the melodic contours and rhythmic patterns of their native tongue. Prosodic features help them detect word boundaries and phrase units before they understand individual phonemes or words. For example, stress patterns. English learning babies notice that many English content words begin with a stressed syllable. For example, K, A, bell, J, wage. So they look for that strong weak pattern when segmenting speech. The fifth, synthetic processing. Prosodic phrasing can facilitate or sometimes mislead sentence phrasing. Researchers distinguish intonational phrases, break group made by pitch research and final lightening from scientific phrases and study how mismatches affect comprehension. For example, match hit. When Mary arrived, the party started. Prosodic break aligns with the clause boundary, easy interpretation. Mismatched. When Mary arrived, the party started. Break in the middle of the subordinate clause disrupts processing. And the sixth, disruption in prosody. Certain clinical population, for example, individuals with autism spectrum disorder, a procedure after right hemisphere stroke, struggle to produce or interpret prosodic cues, leading to difficulties in social communication and sentence disambiguation. For example, a person with autism might fail to use rising pitch at the end of yes or no questions, you're coming, causing confusing about whether they are asking or stating. Someone with flat affect post-stroke may speak in a monotone, making it hard for listeners to discern emotional context. The seventh, neural basis. ERP studies final components like the closure positive shift CPS at the prosodic boundaries and the P200 P600 complex for prosodic scientific mismatch. fMRI work so right hemisphere and bilateral superior temporal sulcus involvement in processing pitch, rhythm, and intonations. For example, in our ERP experiment, participants hear sentences with or without a prosodic break at a clause boundary. The presence of a break elicits a CPS roguely 500 million after the boundary reflecting dissection in integration of the prosodic queue. The last one is implications for NLP. Human-like speech systems must model prosody to sound natural and to reduce misinterpretations. This involves listening pitch contours, FO tracks, duration patterns, and intensity variations conditioned on syntax, information structure, and speaker intent. For example, text-to-speech (TTS), modern neural TTS, for example, Psychoturn WaveNet learns from recorded speech to generate appropriate intonation for statement versus questions. Speech recognition. Prosodic features can improve disambiguation, detecting sentence boundaries in continuous speech and distinguishing "that's right" agreement from "that's right" questions.
Okay, next, the chapter 14. The syntax and semantic interface and online comprehension of sentence meaning. Language consists of two main components, syntax and semantics. Syntax is the sense of rules that govern the structure of sentence. Semantic is the meaning contained in sentence. Okay. Syntax semantic interface. The syntax semantic interface is process by which our brain interprets syntax and semantics to understand the meaning of sentence. This process occurs online, i.e. when we hear or read sentence. Types of composition. Composition can be divided into two types: synthetic comprehension and semantic composition. Synthetic composition, the process by which words and combinate to form sentence. Semantic composition is the process by which the meaning of words in combinate form the meaning of sentence. Sentence composition. Sentence consists of several components such as words, phrases, and clause. Sentence composition can affect the meaning contained in sentence. Example of composition. Example: I eat apple. Syntax composition. I subject plus it, predicate plus apple object. Semantic composition. I agent plus it, action plus apple object. Okay. Chapter 15. Constraint satisfaction accounts of lexical and sentence comprehension. 1. Traditional views of lexical and syntax ambiguity. Older theories treated word meaning ambiguity, lexical and sentence structure, ambiguity and syntactic as separate step-by-step process. First you pick a word's meaning in wrong grammar, then you and build the sentence structure ignoring context. Example: lexical stage. Student word bat decided it means flying mammal. Synthetic stage later build the tree for in the bat. Even though bat here really means baseball club. So, sources of the constraint-based approach. In the 1990 to 2000, researchers begin gathering evidence they get from interactive Probabilistic model. Power's theorem of change fidelity C. 2.1 Change view about linguistic structure. People realize the grammar is just a set of rigid rules. Real sentences have a lot of variation and fuzzy patterns. Sample: some verbs enjoy almost always take a noun phrase. Enjoy ice cream. While others it can take different from it quickly. It and a people. Literals learn there's possibility patterns, not just fixed neurons.
Okay, 2.2 changing views about context. Psycholinguistics experiments show that even a few words of context can bias interpretation instantly rather than waiting until later. For example, at the zoo, the bear, even before you hear the verb, you learn toward bear, meaning the animal, not someone who bears with. And 2.3 changing views about language statistics. Large corpora or gigantic collections of real-world text reveal that research statistics, how often words occur together, which structures are common, and etc. And these statistics guide comprehension. For example, you've seen order pizza together far more often than order shoes. So, if you hear "I'd like to order blah blah blah" and you expect pizza next. And 3 probabilistic constraints and syntactic ambiguity resolution. Here we see how weighted clause resolve structure choices in real time. 3.1 and example main verb versus reduced relative ambiguities. Sentence like the dog chased past the bird fell are ambiguous until you reach fell. Initially, you first chase as a main clause verb like the dog chased past, but when fell appears, you must analyze chase as part of a reduced relative clause like the dog that was chased. Constraint factors, verb bias. Some verbs rarely appear in reduced relatives, so you're less likely to expect that structure. And 3.2 computational modeling of constraint-based theory. Researchers build models that take in streams of words plus probability tables. For example, how often chase is followed by past versus a noun. The model computes the most likely pairs at each word and tracks when it has to assign probabilities like predicting human reading times. For example, a parser assigns 18% weight to main verb pairs on chase, 20% to reduced relative. At fail, the reduced relative weight jumps to 95% and it backtracks just like a reader does.
Okay, thank you for presentation. Presenter, and then the next one. Do you have any question? Okay, I don't have question. I close the presentation today. Thank you and see you.
See you.